Hey guys, this is Heather. When people are looking at a meal plan or at following some kind of diet, they usually fixate on the macros, the macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So whether it's low carb, high protein, low fat. When people are looking at going vegan or plant-based, they question whether there's going to be enough protein. So I wanted to talk about macros today. And first of all, plants can give us more than enough protein for our body's needs. And it turns out that because plants are more naturally balanced in the macros, it's actually easier to create a balanced diet for yourself. Most people should be aiming for 60 to 70% carbohydrates, 20 to 30% fats, and 10 to 15% protein. Maybe up to 20% for elite or endurance athletes. But nobody really needs to go outside of those ranges. And when I say that's good for most people, those ranges are calculated based on 98% of the population. So when we see fad diets that are suggesting we go outside of those ranges, let me just say it's not necessary. It might do something interesting in the short term, but in the long term, there's no benefit, and it can actually be harmful because there will be waste products, but because your metabolism depends on that ratio of those three macronutrients. So if you have too much of, say, protein, there's going to be waste products in your metabolism that your body's then going to have to deal with. So some minor implications of that might be dehydration. If it goes on for too long, there might be impact to your kidneys because they are a waste filtration organ. But the thing is, when we're putting food on our plate, we're looking at foods, not macronutrients. So we're looking at avocados and chickpeas, not carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, right? Or at least when we shift to plant foods, we might need to shift our perspective a little bit along with that. Because while animal foods are generally looked at as protein foods, plant foods have a mix of all the macronutrients, along with a lot of the micronutrients, which are vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. So when I said that plant foods are more naturally balanced, what I mean is that a chickpea will have some protein, some carbohydrate, and some fat, all in the same little package. So we don't necessarily have to think about protein foods, carbohydrate foods, and fatty foods. But there are some generalizations we can make to help balancing your plate a little bit easier. So carbohydrates mostly come from whole grains and fruits. Whole grains are going to give us complex carbohydrates. Fruits are going to give us simple carbohydrates. Both are your body's main source of energy, so they are important to include on your plate. And they'll have something like 70 to 90% carbohydrates. But they also come along with a lot of fiber, which does not count as a carbohydrate and does not add to the calories for your day. They also come along with a lot of water. Whole grains and fruit are excellent sources of carbohydrates, also come along with a lot of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, those micronutrients that our body needs to thrive. For protein, beans and legumes, usually the poster child for vegan protein, they do have a significant amount of protein, about 18 to 25% for most beans. Soybeans are up in the 30% protein range. And as I mentioned earlier, overall, we're looking for about 10 to 15% of our diet from protein. So beans and legumes, excellent source of plant protein, as well as dark green leafy vegetables, which don't have many calories, but they have about 40% protein. Spices add tiny little amounts, but really important amino acids. And Other foods will have protein in them. Pretty much every plant food has some protein in it, even apples. Fats are crucial to your body's functions in terms of regulating normal metabolism, making sure your hair and your skin are healthy, regulating your hormone production. So there are lots of reasons that we need fats in our diets. Whole food forms would be things like avocados, nuts, seeds, hovering somewhere around the 80% fat content. We can also get fats from oils, which are 100% fat. So they are good to minimize because they don't really have the micronutrients that the whole food fats will have. But you don't need to avoid them entirely. There are some reasons that oils can be beneficial. So for instance, if you do have low hormone levels, coconut oil might be a good way for vegans to bump up their hormone production by increasing that saturated fat content in their diet. So when you're looking to build a balanced vegan plate for yourself, you want to make sure you pull in components from each of these categories. I included a graphic in my new book, The Plant-Based Diet Meal Plan, to help you visualize how to set up a balanced plate. But of course, that still looks at kind of the broad categories, and your plate could actually look a lot of different ways visually. So for instance, the cover of my book has a nice balanced plate there with some quinoa, some black beans, some avocado, lots of veggies, some mango salsa. It might look like this in very clearly delineated sections of your bowl, or it might look like this where things are just wrapped up. I know it can be challenging, particularly if you're used to centering your plate around which animal food you're having, you know, beef, chicken, fish. So there is a little bit of a transition point where you have to figure out how to rebalance your plate. But again, in the end, it's actually easier, and you can definitely get all of the nutrients that you need from plants. I go into lots more detail about this, as well as some other nutrition points, kitchen setup tips, and give you 3 weeks of a fully planned meal plan so you can see exactly how to set up your plate to get balanced nutrition. So all of that is in the new book, The Plant-Based Diet Meal Plan. You can pre-order this right now and you'll get 2 free ebooks, my healthy desserts, and also Protein from Plants, which is a full-length ebook telling you exactly how to get protein from plants. So anybody who's worried about that, pre-order the book now and I'll send you that and you can be totally at ease. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that helps give you an idea of how to set up a balanced plate full of plants. Leave me any questions or comments that you have down below, and we'll talk soon. Bye, guys.
Veganook, yeah.